What's up, y'all? It's your girl, Nia Ashe, aka the Purpose Student Doula. If this is your first time here, welcome to my channel. And if you're returning, welcome back. I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in to this third documented episode of my journey towards becoming a certified full spectrum doula. In my last video, we took a trip to the classroom to learn more about what a doula is and what doula support looks like. In referencing some doula do's, we also went over some doula don'ts. One of the doula don'ts that I mentioned is that doulas don't only serve in a home birth setting. And I made sure to include that because in the case of my second client, she wound up giving birth in a hospital. So today, I wanted to take y'all down memory lane to give y'all all the nitty-gritty details as to what my experience was like supporting a birth in person for the first time. Considering this was my first time ever supporting a birth, ever attending a birth, let me tell y'all something. No amount of training in the world could have prepared me for a sacred moment such as this. Now, with my second client, I was hired around week 11, and throughout her entire pregnancy journey, my client, Lakendra, made sure to take full advantage of all the support that she was receiving from myself, her midwife, and the various support groups and prenatal classes that she attended. Considering this was her second pregnancy, Lakendra wanted to take a more intentional approach to ensure that she had a more positive labor and birthing experience, particularly in comparison to her first one 5 years ago. Just a little spoiler alert, she definitely received that and then some. Now, Lakendra's labor started around week 37, week 36, when she started experiencing intermittent contractions. A common sign of early labor, we knew that once she reached full term, it would only be a matter of time before the baby would be here literally any day. Now keep in mind, her estimated due date was November 14th. However, on October 24th at 10:45 a.m., when Lakendra and her husband, Jim, went to their 38-week appointment, they found out that they'd probably be having their baby here sooner than later, okay? My girl was 4 centimeters dilated. So clearly, them early labor contractions were doing a little something, something. Now, after they discovered she was about 4 centimeters dilated, they proceeded to perform a stress test. And because they received some undesirable results, they went ahead and admitted Lakendra and Jim. This took place around 2:35 p.m. Now, because at this point in time, Lakendra was already full term, I was on call. And by the grace of God, that day I was off of work and had a light enough schedule to where I was able to shift some things around to make sure that once I got the call to pull up on them, I would be able to support Lakendra and Jim in the ways that they needed. And even though we had already discussed in previous prenatal appointments that baby girl might come sooner than their estimated due date, I was still definitely surprised when I found out that she was being admitted, okay? And at that point, all of the intrusive thoughts started flooding in. As I waited for the green light to pull up on them at the hospital, my thoughts ranged from what if she has a cesarean birth to what if they forget everything we discussed prenatally? Even going as far as thinking, what if they don't even call me? High key, y'all, your girl was spiraling, okay? And even though my fears were being put on Front Street, during that waiting period, I made sure to ground myself through prayer and affirmations. What really helped to pull me through that spiral was just reminding myself that this experience is not my own and that I'm simply here to support Lakendra and Jim in the ways that they need. I had to remind myself of the importance of leaving my ego in the back seat and my biases at the door. Because regardless, again, I was here to support Lakendra and Jim in making sure that they had the most positive experience possible. Once I got the phone call around 7:35 p.m., I was more than ready to begin my initiation process into the world of birth work. I arrived around 8:15 to the hospital and was with Lakendra and Jim until about 4:59 a.m. Accompanied with us was her midwife, Dr. Kathy Lee Schneider, and the hospital assigned labor and delivery nurse, whose name I will definitely have to include in post-production because y'all, I could not remember it for the life of me. No shade, none of that. Charge it to my head and not my heart. Now, when I arrived to the hospital, I'm not gonna lie, y'all, my guard was definitely up. During her pregnancy, Lakendra was advised to pivot from her home birth plan to delivering at the hospital. Now, the reason why I had my guard up is because of the statistics that we've seen when it comes to birthers of color delivering in the hospital. The statistics show that birthers of color tend to be 3 to 4 times more likely to die from childbirth than their white counterparts. Because this was my first time in a hospital setting, I had no idea what to expect, so I made sure to be on alert and on guard. But let me tell y'all something. By the grace of God, within an hour of me being there, my fears that I had, the thoughts that I had, the intrusive ones at that, it all soon began to dissipate. Now, the reason why we were blessed is because we were presented with a rare occurrence. Lakendra was the only person on the labor and delivery floor giving birth that evening. That meant that in spite of the 31% statistic of nurses being in the labor room, Lakendra's labor and delivery nurse was with her majority of the time. Now, I won't lie to y'all, having the L&D nurse in there most of the time definitely had me in my head. Because I'm like, well, if she's offering the laboring positions and advising Lakendra, then what am I here for? But again, making sure to keep my ego in the back seat and not make this about me, eventually I was able to find my space and my place in the circle of support. It was during that moment where I was reminded that doula support has 3 different pillars. And sometimes the emotional support that we can offer is all that's literally needed in the moment, especially when it came to how supportive Jim was of Lakendra. Because not only was she being advised on the laboring positions, not only was she being provided emotional support, she was also receiving physical support from her husband. When I tell y'all, the husband was the doula, and I really love that for her. I really mean that, y'all. I feel like one of the greatest tools a person can have while in labor is a partner, a loved one, someone it is that they can trust. So that way, assisting with the release of oxytocin, you know, all the feel-good hormones, it really helps the birther stay in the zone and reach the finish line, which is delivering a healthy baby. Like, I'm telling y'all, every contraction that she had, Jim was right behind her, okay? Supporting her, helping her get into her 3 R's, making sure that she was maintaining her rhythm, getting into that space of relaxation, pretty much doing all the things to make sure that Lakendra remained in her parasympathetic state. And even when the pain of labor started to feel a bit unbearable, Jim was right there with Lakendra, reminding her that she is capable of doing this hard work, reassuring her that she is more than capable of seeing this delivery through from start to finish. This was especially helpful because in the case of Lakendra's second pregnancy, she opted for no epidural. On top of all that, the ways in which Lakendra was intuitively listening to her body, naturally getting herself in the right positions to get that cervix fully dilated and effaced, I was taken aback and I was for sure filled with emotions. Cause like, keep in mind y'all, this is my first time experiencing anything like this in person. It was a lot in the best of ways possible. Because she received such great support throughout her laboring experience, by the time the hour came for Lakendra to push, she was more than ready to meet her baby girl. With myself and Jim on her left, the L&D nurse on her right, and Dr. Kathy Lee Schneider ready to catch, baby girl was delivered earthside at 3:59 a.m. on October 30th. Now, earlier I mentioned that no amount of training could have prepared me for such a sacred moment as witnessing someone bring life into this world. Not only that, there was nothing and there was no one that could have prepared me for the amount of emotions that I would feel the days after Lakendra's birth. But if I had to hone in on one, I would say that I was definitely overjoyed. I was overjoyed by the fact that this Black family was able to receive the proper support they needed during their time of need. I was overjoyed by the fact that they were able to make informed decisions for themselves that would honor Lakendra's body and also honor the baby she was carrying. And above all else, I was overjoyed at the fact that my first time hospital setting experience showed me what a hospital birth should look like. Free from coercion and full of unbiased support. Now, especially this year, we've seen tons of cases in the likes of Adriana Smith, Carrie Jones, and even birthers of color whose instances and experiences didn't get publicized. So I had to count it a blessing for the fact that Lakendra and Jim had the experience that they did. It's because of this that I thank not only God for presenting this opportunity to us, but I also thank Dr. Kathy Lee Schneider and the respective L&D nurse for providing ethical support to Lakendra and Jim during this time. Now, even though this was a rare occurrence, I truly do thank God for presenting this opportunity for me, especially considering it was my first time being in a hospital setting. I thank God for properly preparing me and positioning me to be able to support Lakendra and Jim, not only throughout their pregnancy, but throughout their labor and delivery experience as well. Lakendra's birth literally could have gone any other way except the way it did. And so I thank God for positioning her and preparing her to do the necessary work that she saw fit for her journey in order to make it as positive and smooth as possible. I thank God just for keeping Lakendra and Jim throughout their entire pregnancy, providing them with the resources that they needed in order to be able to come together and properly prepare to bring their baby girl into the world. To this day, I am both honored and grateful for the fact that Lakendra and Jim chose me to serve them during their time of growing their family. And so because of this, I thank y'all for tuning in to this episode of me becoming one step closer to being a certified full spectrum doula. In my next video, we'll be taking a trip back to the classroom to learn more about the reproductive health spectrum, specifically focusing in on cycle charting, fertility, and how you can use cycle charting to both plan for a pregnancy and even use it as a natural form of birth control. But until then, my name is Nia Ashe, and I am the Purpose Student Doula. I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.